Looking at the Galaxy S9's exterior, you may think there isn't a huge difference between it and its predecessor, the S8, and you'd mostly be right. I'm Travis from Trabex Tech, and this is the first look at the Galaxy S9. So other than some fresh coats of paint and a repositioned fingerprint sensor, the S9 looks almost identical to the S8. A bright Super AMOLED display with the curved glass measuring 5.8 inches or 6.2 for the Plus, super skinny bezels, a glass back, and an aluminum chassis all remain the same. Also, some returning features that we all love like wireless charging, Samsung Pay, and a very rare headphone jack for a phone, and some returning features that we don't all love like a physical Bixby button that you will still press every damn time you're trying to lower the volume. And of course we have the expected performance increases coming from the new Snapdragon 845 processor. You get 4GB of RAM or 6 if you have the Plus, and Android 8.0, otherwise known as Oreo. So on paper this is a pretty boring upgrade. However, let's dive a little bit deeper into the new features and see how much of an improvement each one of these actually are. First off, let's begin with the processor. The Snapdragon 845 can be expected to be in just about every high-end Android phone later this year, and with it comes a reported 25% boost in speed and performance. Now, according to early benchmarks, this isn't competing with the iPhone's A11 Bionic quite yet, but it's still pretty damn fast. However, I don't think the average user is going to really notice a difference at all when compared to the Galaxy S8. The S9 also borrowed the iris scanning technology from the Note 8, combining it with the facial recognition to give you a more secure unlock option, but not quite as secure as Apple's Face ID still. Also, there's the repositioned fingerprint scanner, which isn't technically a new feature, but it is, however, my favorite change. I'm a huge fan of fingerprint scanners, but the position of the scanner on the S8 made it about as useful as the iPhone X's fingerprint scanner. Speaking of the iPhone, the Samsung has introduced their own version of Animoji. I like their take on it a little bit more, as it actually creates a Bitmoji character and uses that instead of a monkey or, a talking pile of poo. However, it's very rough and definitely needs some improvements if it wants to compete with Animoji, and I expect this is something that will get better with future software updates. Now, a change I was actually really excited about was the addition of stereo speakers with Dolby Atmos. I personally use Dolby Atmos on all of my gaming headsets, and I really do love this technology. However, when compared side by side next to the S8, I barely notice a difference other than overall volume. But I'll take it, as the S8 had one of the worst speakers of any premium smartphone last year. Now, the camera is the biggest change on this phone, and it's the feature that's really going to set it apart from the S8 and the rest of the competition for that matter. Now, on the S9 Plus, you do get the dual sensor camera. However, there's a slight catch. The telephoto lens is used to give you a better zoom, allowing for an optical zoom instead of a digital zoom. However, it only works when you have optimal lighting. Most of the time, if you're shooting indoors, the phone is still going to be using the main camera, so don't buy the Plus based off of that difference alone. Now let's talk about that primary camera. As far as I know, it is the first and only phone to have an actual variable aperture, and this is really impressive. So what does a variable aperture mean exactly? Well, basically, it means the aperture can physically change, in this case from an f2.4 all the way up to an f1.5 aperture to allow in more light, thus giving you better performance in low light and even really dark photos. So if you take a look at these two photos I took, the first one was taken with the Galaxy S8 with normal settings, and the second one was taken with the Galaxy S9, again with default settings. You can see how much cleaner the S9 photo looks. There's hardly any noise in the photo at all. This is really impressive, guys. I'm honestly blown away at the camera that they were able to put into a phone. You really got to take your hat off to Samsung and applaud the innovation that comes out of that company every single year. I truly believe this is the next big step forward in terms of cameras on smartphones. We've moved on from the dual sensor phase and into the dual aperture phase. The last upgrade I want to talk about is the super slow, and when they say super slow, they mean super slow. 960 frames per second. I'm going to say that again. 960 frames per second. That takes 0.2 seconds and turns it into a 6-second clip, and does this while still shooting the video in 720p. Now, in my experience, it was a little tricky getting it to work as intended, but when it did, the results were amazing. So I've talked about the improvements and what's good about this phone, but let's briefly touch on the not so good. Overall, I was a little disappointed with the battery life. It seems to be almost identical to the S8 as far as an actual battery life with real life usage goes, and that kind of sucks. Battery life is one of the most important components of a phone, and one that I expect to get better each and every year. Not saying the battery life is bad, it's just I would have liked to see a bigger improvement. Now, I've never been a fan of TouchWiz, Samsung's overlay that they put on top of Android. I don't like the way it looks. I don't really like the way it interacts, and I hate having all the duplicates that it gives you, like the Samsung Health app and the multiple Galaxy stores. Oh, and Bixby still sucks. Overall, there's not a lot I can say bad about the Galaxy S9 though. Yes, it's a small upgrade from the S8, but what they did change, I feel they did a great job of changing, and therefore I would say it's worth the upgrade. Shoot, I'd upgrade just for the relocated fingerprint sensor. However, being that the camera is one of the most important and one of the most popular features on a smartphone, with as big of an upgrade this camera got, I expect a lot of people to be jumping ship over to the S9 just for that reason alone. Well, that's going to do it for the first look of the Galaxy S9. If you liked the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and please subscribe if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.